everybody, and welcome to another exciting video from Copperland about living on gold. Now, we live up here in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. This is where the biggest of the Great Lakes is. We have Lake Superior about a mile from here, and we do not have a drought problem. We just saw a video that Russ from RVer TV showed us. He's up at Lake Powell. Lake Powell is no longer Lake Powell, it is River Powell. It's a mud hole there. They're putting their boats out on a mud puddle. Lake Powell is drying up, Lake Mead is drying up, the Colorado River is drying up. This is serious stuff. So I am never going to move to Arizona. I'll go out there for my work, for my business during the winter, because winters are pretty extreme up here. We get tons of snow, and right now we're getting all the rain this spring that usually falls on California, Arizona, Nevada, New Mexico, Texas. We're getting all their rain. We're getting more than our fair share of rain. Usually we don't get it in May. We're getting lots of rain in May. So the weather cycle, which is a big sine wave encompassing the Earth, it's a big sine wave of highs and lows, you could say, of cold, warm, drought, rain. Those are sine waves. They're huge sine waves that wrap around the Earth. And they used to be regular. You could count on water or sunshine or whatever at specific points of the year. You can't anymore because the sine wave weather pattern is shifted. The phase has shifted, and we're getting the rain that you guys out there in the Southwest should be getting. Well, the fact is that your lakes, your main reservoirs of water, are all drying up. Arizona is dying. So I am not ever moving to a dying state. However, Arizona has lots of gold. It's tons of gold if you know how to find it. So our plan is we'll never move from Michigan. We have more water here than the world can use, but we're keeping it here and we're going to use it here. It's a great place to spend half the year in agriculture and half the year out in Arizona, or 5 months in Arizona, digging gold, living on gold. That's what we plan on doing, living on our gold efforts. So that's why we're into this new approach. It's a new method, a new approach, and we call it living on gold. Now, the reason our series is called Living on Gold is because I only know of two regular normal people, people with normal budgets. I only know of two people who actually live on gold, and they both live in Alaska. One guy lives around Nome, Alaska, and he works the beaches half the year, and he can't work the other half of the year because of the weather. But he can get he claims up to 1 ounce per day off the beaches if the weather is right, if the waves are right. He can find that much in a day, but usually not. I believe he lives on about $50,000 on his gold take for part of the year. And the other guy that I know of lives around Juneau, and he's working the sands, which are downstream from all the mining that was going on in the 1800s, where they were mining up in the hills. It was washing down and depositing in the sands of Juneau, and they work the sands. So in both cases, they're working sand. They don't have to break rock. They just move and process the sand. And there's another spot where they're working sands. It's in Washington, some in Oregon, maybe in Northern California, but mostly Washington State. and they're working sands, but those guys usually only get about 3 grams on a hard-working weekend. You got to get more than 3 grams on a weekend if you're going to live on it, because what's the price of a gram of gold? Maybe $40 or $50, maybe 60 if it's high. Well, that's not enough for an entire week of work. You can't live on that. So we're developing new methods. All the old methods, dry washing, panning, sluicing, really are not going to get you to a gold living. You can't live on that amount. You have to develop a whole new methodology to identify gold, find it, and then process it. So there are 3 parts to our method. It's a scientific method that we're taking. Number 1 is the origins of gold. Now, we already went over the origins of gold, so you know where it comes from. Basically, it comes from the sun. The sun comes from a universe of hydrogen and all that. Specifically in Arizona, Nevada, New Mexico, wherever. The gold is coming up. It's riding an iron horse, coming up from the center of the earth. It's actually the center of the earth melts through the different mineral layers and draws the gold up, wicking it up by heat. Second part of our process is finding gold. Now, if you know how to find gold, the rest is easy. But you've got to find it in sufficient quantity that you can live on it. I've seen some of these guys go out and they'll go into a gully and they'll work for a couple of weeks and they'll break their backs moving 3,000 pails, 3,000 buckets of gully wash. Well, that's a lot of work. Yeah, they got several ounces of gold out of that, but when you figure out the per ton take that they're getting, it's still only 1/10 of a gram per ton. It's not a lot. You're moving a lot of tonnage. You've got to move 15 or 20 tons to get a couple ounces out there going in the gullies. Well, we're not taking that approach. We're taking a scientific approach to finding it, find out where it's really at. And the third part, number 3, is processing gold. And that could be either placer or it can be load. And what we're developing is tools so that you can do a really good job of processing either placers or load. Right now we have all the tools we need to do either one, and we'll show you what those tools are as we go along. We're actually developing new tools to make it really, really easy to work with off-the-shelf tools, which we'll show you in a minute. Using off-the-shelf tools with some custom-built tools to actually find pockets of gold. Okay, so if you're going to live on gold, you have to understand the origins of it, how it comes up. You have to have a method of finding it in sufficient quantity that you're going to live on it. And then you have to have the tools and the ability to process it so you can live on it. Well, most people, like I said, don't even have enough money. If you don't have a couple $100,000 to go out and buy bobcats and huge placer processing operations like huge dry washers or whatever, you're not going to make it. You have to have a big investment. Well, we don't have it, and we don't want it. We want to show how an ordinary person on an ordinary income or ordinary savings can actually go out with a small budget and make it on gold, live on gold. So that's where we're going with it. Okay, so 3 parts to our new method. It's a scientific method of understanding where the gold comes from, how to find it, and how to process it on a low budget. Okay, as part of the next part, which is number 2, finding gold, okay, you have several tools. Now, the tools that we have available is we've got a few online tools. You have MRDS, which is the Government Mineral Resources Data System. You have My Land Matters. You have Google Earth. You have MindDat. You have Diggings. These are your online resources to go take a look at where you're going to plan out finding gold. Now, a lot of these organizations, MRDS, My Land Matters, MindDat, Diggings, they'll actually tell you historically where gold was found. Well, then you can go through there and use either Google Earth, or you can get, MRDS has topos you can get. You can study those maps. You can study from a satellite view what's in the area. You can actually see diggings and stuff like that. But you have to investigate where you're going so you know you're not just going out in the desert where there is no gold. So you study MRDS, My Land Matters, MindDat, Diggings for historically where was gold found in a certain percentage. Then when you find an area that looks good, you go to Google Earth and you study from the satellite view what's going on in the area. Now once that looks good, it's important to use MRDS, My Land Matters, Diggings. I'm not sure about MindDat, but Diggings definitely. They'll show you which areas have historic claims and existing claims. So you gotta look for existing claims, active claims. You can't dig on somebody else's property. So you have to look at the area you're interested in, map out on a paper map exactly where those claims are, and you avoid them. Now, one tool that we're developing that'll help you to navigate out there is called UNAV. It's a custom mapping tool, mapping and navigation tool that we're developing here that allows us to develop maps, easily put maps, convert them electronically into a UNAV format. Once they're in a UNAV format, you use a GPS with your handheld computer or whatever to actually see where you're at in the field. Then you can avoid other people's claims, and this will get you exactly to the spot you're looking for. Well, that's a custom tool. We're going to use that when we're out there because there isn't anything that comes close to a universal navigator, which is it shows you exactly where you're at and you can plot out exactly where the claims are at. It's simply a matter of printing out a map, marking boundaries on the map and then scanning it into UNAV. Real simple. Okay, that's where you start. Now, once you're in the field, you have other tools available. The number one tool for your field work is an RC airplane, radio-controlled airplane, or what they call drone. One of those little four to six propeller drones. Use those to go out and give you a first-hand view. They call it FPV, which is first-person view of what's out there. So you can look at the lay of the land. You can get up above the geology and you can look down from above on formations. And if you're looking down from above, you can spot certain color patterns. You can look at debris fields, things like that. We'll show you more of this in future videos, how you do it. But there are debris fields out there that we've seen as other people have flown their drones over the Black Mountains or whatever. We've seen debris fields out there nobody has ever gone to. These are debris fields of eroding volcanic plugs. Nobody even knows what's in these debris fields. They naturally break down and create these big debris fields coming off at about a 45-degree angle off the mountains. Nobody's been there. It's too remote. But you get a remote-controlled airplane or helicopter or drone, you can fly right through there and identify exactly where you need to go to take a look. It's not guaranteed, but if you really know color patterns, like how does the gold come up? Well, it comes up in iron. I don't care if people find it in quartz. It was transferred to the quartz from the iron. So most of the gold is coming up in iron. What you really want to look for is soft iron. Soft iron is hematite, not basalt. Basalt is hard iron, pig iron. You want soft iron. There are whole shoots of hematite soft iron that just drop the gold right out of it. It's already eroded, disintegrated, even if it's in the chute. Going down 100 feet into the ground or 700 feet into the ground, it's an ore chute of red, what they call red earth. It's hematite that's been oxidized, iron, pure iron with gold in it, oxidized down to rust, basically rust. So you want to go out, take your drone or your airplane, and make sure if you get a bigger, heavier drone or airplane, it's got to be registered with the FAA. You got to take a little safety test and all that. I did that in 2 hours, the whole thing. Registration, testing, all that. I got all my certification because my airplane is going to be a lot more than half a pound. You can fly any drone out there which is under 0.55 pounds. You don't need a registration. Once you go over that, and you have to go over it if you're going to have enough battery power to get out there and get back. So that's something to consider. Get a good quality drone, but watch out. If you don't set them up right, you'll send it up, you'll tell it to return to home, and it'll just fly off into the sunset. So you got to watch out. A lot of people have lost their drones by having them just fly away on them, and they're pushing the return to home button, and it just says, hell with you, I'm going to go explore. And it's out there somewhere. There are hundreds of these out there somewhere, crashed out in the mountains or whatever. Anyway, you might find one when you get out there. So you send your radio-controlled airplane or drone. What I'm doing is building up they call it a sonic model, 1 meter across, 1 meter wingspan airplane. I like airplanes. I don't really like that drone stuff. These will give you a lot more range. They can get way out there and come back and show you what's out there. The little helicopter kind of drones really have limited range, but they're good, stable platforms if you want to go straight up and look around, like look around your position and get a good lay of the land. They're good for that. So it's good to have a couple types. We have a couple of little four-bladed drones. We have 2 or 3 of those. They're okay, but I like the airplanes if I'm going to get out there and look at a whole mountain range to see where I want to put my time and energy into. The radio-controlled airplane can save you a year of walking around, or several years just walking around on the hills, sampling and looking for stuff, if you know what you're looking at. So that's number one. You need to send your airplane out or your drone to show you what's out there, to see if you even want to go out there and start sampling. Now, the second thing you need is certain tools. First tool you need is your metal detector. When it comes to metal detectors, there's a whole lot of leeway in metal detectors. You have shallow detectors, you got deep seeking. Well, I don't think the shallow detectors are worth much. You can do them for nugget shooting, things like that, but it's not going to be enough to live on. So we're going to concentrate on deep seeking detectors, and we'll go over metal detectors in a minute. But then the other tool that you need, we started to tell you, is coring tool. That's important because that actually tells you if there's anything there. So our method is to, first of all, identify where your bigger gold deposits are going to be. If you have a mountain like this, and it's been eroding down all of the sides, well, any gold that's coming off this mountain is going to hit any change in angle. Say this is your desert here, it's going to drop out right here or very close to where it goes from about a 45-degree angle to either dead flat or very low angles. It's going to drop out right there. Well, over the years, the gold has dropped out and it's been covered up with additional erosion, or what they call dirt, mud, whatever. Well, these pockets of gold are so far down, a shallow detector will never see them. Only a deep-seeking detector is going to find where these deposits that are maybe 4 or 5 or 6 feet under, maybe even deeper than that, you're going to find pockets of gold which are much deeper than anybody's detectors are going to detect, including mine labs. There are a couple out there, we'll show you what they are, that actually can go a lot deeper. One of the deeper ones is made by Fisher. It's called a Gemini 3. And Garrett makes, it's an add-on deep-seeking detector for one of their, maybe the AT Gold, I believe it's the AT Gold or one of those. And they're very, very specific machines for deep seeking. Now with the Fisher Gemini 3, which we have, it's actually designed to detect, say you're up here with your detector, it can actually detect veins. It's designed to detect veins as far as 35 to 50 feet below the surface. If the vein is big enough, it'll detect something that deep. The Garrett probably is similar. I'm sure it's pretty close or probably identical in capability. But that's what we're talking about, is you want something that's deep seeking, that'll find these placer deposits from millions of years ago that everybody walked over, but where you're going to start detecting is right there at the foot of the mountain. That's where it dropped off and got covered up. Didn't travel way down into the desert. That's all the light, fine gold. We're not going after flour gold. We're going after new deposits or undiscovered deposits of nuggets. So that's our approach on placers. Now if you're going after lode gold, that's a lot easier. So you have a dike, a ridgeback. You can just go right up to these surfacing deposits, the dike or the ridgeback. You can use even a shallow metal detector to find gold in the matrix. It's still in the rock. You want to look for, if it's basalt that you're examining, you want to look along the edge where it's interacted with granite or calcium carbonate or something, and the gold's been extracted by a wicking or a flux effect out of the basalt and into the country rock. You look along there and you look for basalt that's turned to a red colored rock, which is your hematite rock. Now from there it's pretty easy to find if there's gold in a dike. You can take off a sample, process the sample, and find out how much gold per ton there is, and then you may want to go back to that spot and start picking up rocks or actually crushing out rock to process. My name is not Jeff. I'm not Roger from Oz. I'm Ken from Copperland. Remember, only gold turbine tools and gold processing systems will turn you from a weak 90-pound gold panning weakling into a beast of a miner. So until then, take care, and we'll see you in the gold fields of Arizona. Bye for now.